Hello, everyone. This is Jeanette Shaliga with VGA, and I am here with Melissa Barker, the archive lady. Hello, Melissa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jeanette. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. A little tired too. It was my first day back from vacation after the
I understand.
holidays. My sleep pattern got a little off. Um, but I got to actually play a little bit on my own family tree during the holidays. And so I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Do you have a favorite ancestor?
I have lots of favorite
Yeah.
ancestors, but one of my favorite ancestors is actually my grandfather. And one of the reasons why he is such a favorite of mine is because he died when I was only 3 years old. His name was Cody Lee Lemaster. Lemaster is my maiden name. He died when when I was 3 years old in 1973. And I never got to know him, but there's things about him that are so intriguing. He worked at the same place for over 40 years. He never owned a car, never had a driver's license. He was born in 1909. His father died in a very tragic elevator accident at his
Oh,
work. And he's just very fascinating. When he died, they said that they found slips of paper with numbers on them in his pocket. So that makes me wonder if he was running numbers or in with, some things that maybe weren't kind of shady, which kind of makes me intrigued because I like my ancestors to be interesting.
right.
I like my ancestors to have maybe a little bit of dirt on them or something so that, it makes it interesting to research. But he's got to be one of my favorites.
You said that he did the same work for 40 years. What type of career did he lead?
He worked at a factory. He worked at Hamlin Products, which is in Akron, Ohio, and I believe as of a few years ago, it's still there. And so I actually visited. This shows you what kind of genealogist I am. I actually visited there several years ago because he actually died there. He was holding the door open, going into work for a lady to go into work, and he died of a heart attack right there.
Mm,
So here's you a crazy genealogist. I walk into the place and I tell them who I am, and
mhm.
I tell them the story about my grandfather working there and that he actually died there. And then I asked him, I said, which door do you think was the employee door in 1973? Because I wanted to go. And they were looked at me like I was crazy. And so my brother and I were there together. And so we actually went to the door that we thought it was. We got pictures of us holding the door open. How crazy is that? But that's what
No,
genealogists do.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Absolutely. Wow. Did they happen to have any employee records on
They did
him?
not. No, they did not. I've actually got several group photographs. Back then, the big companies like that would take employee photographs. And so I've got several for several years in a row of those. And so I've been able to share those with some archives there in Ohio.
Wow, that's awesome. So I listened to another interview that you did for the with Miriam Pierre Louis with the Professional Genealogist podcast, and
Hmm.
you were saying on there, this was a couple of years ago, that you have all these ideas about books that you would like to write. I was just curious, when you do get around to that, do you think you're going to be writing historical fiction books? Are you going to be writing genealogy how-to books? Which side or both do you think you might do?
I have so many ideas for books. When you work in an archives like I do, especially a local county archive, when you look at these records and the local history, there are gazillions of stories that I really want to fetter out. I want to do some more research on and actually write books about. But as far as personally, I'm all about education. And being the archive lady since 2015, one of the things that I get is I get a lot of emails with lots of questions, which I love. I actually did from 2017 until just recently, I did an Ask the Archive Lady column for Thomas McKentay's Genealogy Bargain, his website. And so we would do this, I would do it every 2 weeks. So I've thought about taking those and making those into a book. I've also thought about writing about some of my own ancestors, which I encourage genealogists to do because, researching our ancestors is one thing, but putting it into a narrative and telling their stories. I wish that my ancestors or those that were looking into my family history would have left that for me.
Absolutely. Those mini biographies, like
Yes.
kind of like the county histories, similar to what you're saying that, yeah, we need to bring those back.
Yeah.
And I want to apologize. I said the name of the podcast wrong. It's the Genealogy Professional. So in case anyone
Yes.
goes to look for your episode, and I'll include a link for that for sure.
Thank you.
So coming up for VGA, you're going to be doing a program called Breathing New Life into Your Boring Ancestor. Can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Sure. I find that genealogists sometimes look at their ancestors as exciting ancestors and boring ancestors. And I think that depends on what records you find or are able to find. And like I said, as a working archivist and as a professional genealogist for the past 17 years, I can tell you that all of our ancestors are exciting ancestors. I think it just means you need to get out there and dig a little bit more. So we're going to talk about how to find records that are between the census, that 10-year time span where from one census to the next things have changed, but where do you find the records? What kind of records do I look for? So we're going to talk about in between the census. We're going to talk about some records that I encourage genealogists to look for that I find many genealogists either don't know about, they're intimidated by, they just don't know what they can find in them. That's one of my wonderful things about working as an archivist is genealogists that come into my archives. I get to share with them all the wonderful records that are in my archives. And some of these they've never seen before.
Hmm.
And so we need to be broadening our horizons and looking into records that are online. I'm all about looking for records that are online, but I'm an archivist. So I'm going to tell you, it's
Yeah.
not all online. And so even though we may not be able to travel, we still can email, we can phone call, we can look at the archives websites, their social media pages, because more and more content's coming online every day. But a lot of these records may never come online. And so we need to
Hmm.
work with these archives and see what they have. We're talking about manuscript collections, scrapbooks, diaries, these kinds of records that are just not your humdrum everyday records. And
Hmm.
that's what you're going to need to help to tell your ancestor story. And I'm also going to talk about timelines in this presentation. I'm a huge timeline
Love
person.
timelines.
And and actually I think timelines can actually get you excited about your ancestors when you can look at a timeline and you can just see all the wonderful things they've done, or you can see the holes in what you have not found so far. And
Hmm.
so that's what we're going to talk about. And there's no such thing as a boring ancestor to me. And I want everyone else to really get the sense that all of their ancestors are exciting and should be researching them.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to that. Thank you so very much for meeting with me for this quick little interview. And I very much look forward to your upcoming VGA program.
Thank you, Jeanette. This has been great.